Hey guys, welcome back to Code and Box Automation Lab. This is Sharful. So in our last lecture we have seen how to update our base class or setup class with a util method, right? And in that lecture, I have to use another class. I have created another class with a set of Wi-Fi with a one specific scenarios, and I use number of locators up there to click on different element in our app, and to show the whole demonstration. But I didn't explain how to find those locator, or those element using number of locators. So in this lecture we're going to see the number of locators those are available that we can use to spy any element in your app during the Appium automation. So let's go. So here the number of locators are available in Appium, which is ID, XPath, accessibility ID, class name, and Android UI Automator. So Android UI Automator, which is very specific only for Android app, so this will not work for iOS. Okay, just FYI. So these are the those are the number 5 locators that you can use. There is no CSS selector. If you're familiar with a Selenium world, so the CSS selector is one of the locators that we can use in Selenium, but in Appium there is no CSS selector. Okay, so here is a very special one like accessibility ID, which is the unique for Appium, and also, as I said, Android UI Automator. Okay, so let's go. So we're going to use any one of them. When we are going to spy the element on our app, if any one of them are available, we can use that attribute and the value. Okay, and so first things we said we're going to click on preference. Okay, so this is the preference. So in our last lecture that we use the inspector, like Appium inspector, to find a locator. So this is our Appium inspector. Okay, it was saved our script over here. So I hope that you already know it, and before you run your Appium inspector, make sure you run your Appium server. Okay, so you go to your command prompt or terminal, then just type Appium, so it should run. So minimize that, and after that start your session. So your Appium inspector will start the session. It should have the app over here. Okay, so here is our app. Okay, the first things we're going to, as I said, we're going to our scenario is that let me put it all in one. Okay, so that we can see it. So our first scenarios. Okay, our first scenario is to click on preference. So here is the preference. So if you click on there, you will see on the right side it is all the properties or attribute. You can see it's already says attribute and the value. So those are all attribute, including those. And this is the recommended. At the beginning, couple of them will be recommended that you can easily use to look at that element, the preference. Okay, so and here is I can see there is over here there is a 2 locator already giving here accessibility ID and XPath. Okay, so you can use either any one of them. If you use accessibility ID, very simple, you will see that I already use the driver dot find element, and then I use the accessibility ID. Just to let you know, if you use accessibility ID or Android UI Automator, or you use Android UI Automator, that time it's recommended that you have to use Appium by, not by, right? Not by, like from the Selenium world we always use by then the locator name, but over here this accessibility ID and Android UI Automator, which is very specific for Appium, so you have to use Appium by. So you have to use Appium by dot accessibility ID, and then it is a string, so you have to pass the value of the accessibility ID, which is the preference. Just you double click, copy this over there, and what do you want to do? You want to click it up there, right? Very simple. Okay, and You can use XPath too, it's up to you, but you know that's like, you know, let's use the next one on the XPath. It looks like we will use the XPath on the next one. Okay, so that's the accessibility ID, right? So then it will click. So if it's a clicked, you know, then you have to go to the next window, right? So how to go to the next window? Over here you can see there's a number of button over here. There is a over here, it's called tab. So tab, it means, you know, it will tab on this, you know, element, like on the preference element. So click on tab, it should take you to the next window underneath the preference element. Okay, so this is the preference. Still we're in the preference. Let me click on again. You'll see when I click on, you know, tab, so it says call to tab failed. So this is a very common annoying error that comes always, you know, or sometimes you will see on Appium inspector. You know, this is the very basic things that you will come across, you will see. So what to do? So usually, you know, to locate an element, you know, our first preference to use Appium inspector. If you find or come across this kind of error, like it says element by the accessibility ID preference does not exist in DOM anymore, okay, then, you know, what I can do, cannot tap to fail. Let me try once again, maybe. All right, so if you know, some reason you get that kind of error, you know, you can use your emulator. Okay, let's go back to the emulator. So how can you use emulator? So your emulator over here. Okay, so you are already, if you click on, so here it's you know, you should have, so let me minimize that. So here it's, we're already on emulator. Let's go back to back window. So this is the preference, right? So you will click on the preference, you know, so you already got the element. So after you, oh, sorry, let's open again. So you already got the locator for the preference. So click on the preference, then you should be over here, right? It should be over here in our Appium inspector, but we're not here. So after you know, so after you choose, click on the element that you're supposed to be, you're supposed to be in your emulator, you know, click on there, so be there, and then, you know, come to your inspector, Appium inspector, you click on refresh. So if you click on refresh, it's supposed to take you at the, you know, the window. You can see it's taking you to the window where it's your emulator right now. So, you know, first you will try with the Appium inspector, but if any reason you get an issue, you know, you get any error, you use your emulator, click on the place where you're supposed to be, and then refresh over here. Refresh your Appium inspector, then it will take to the up there. Okay, so now you are supposed to, now we should click on where we should click on the preference dependency launch preference. We should preference dependency. I believe that's the place we're supposed to be. Let me see the code. Preference dependency, yes, we're supposed to be in preference. This is the line. Okay, we're supposed to be here, preference dependency. Okay, so we're supposed to be here. So how to, so click on preference dependency. So if you click on preference dependency on the right side over here, you will see this is the accessibility ID. You have accessibility ID and XPath, either any one of them you can use. So since we used the last time accessibility ID, this time we can use the, you know, XPath. So, you know, copy it. So you already copied the XPath. Let's go back to your Eclipse, and here we're typing something here, driver dot this line. I'm not writing, you know, just going to walk through you. So driver dot find element by XPath. If you're familiar with the XPath or Selenium world, so it's exactly the same syntax for XPath. I believe that you know the syntax of the XPath it's like slash tag name or * sign you can use, and then @ attribute, whatever the attribute you are going to use, and then in a clone, and then it's a value of the attribute, right? So this is the syntax of that. It's a very common or very easy syntax for the XPath, right? So XPath, right? So this is the XPath syntax. You can use tag name or you can use * sign. It's up to you. There's no problem. So either any one of them. Okay. So you can use tag name. That's fine. Tag name. Okay. So here, if I follow this syntax, here I said driver.find element by XPath, and definitely it's definitely it expect a string value. So here is a between the string. So what's here is the double slash, and this is the tag name. What's the tag name? If you go there, so we're using XPath, so XPath, so that's the tag name. If you go, let me go again over here, this is, I copied the whole thing, right? So this is the whole XPath, so you can just copy and paste. If you can just copy and paste the whole thing, right? So this is, so if you just break down these things, so this part is the tag name, this part is the tag name, and then at the red, then this is the attribute content, and this is the value. This is the value. Exactly is matching our syntax of XPath. Okay, and then you are going to press the click, right? So it will click up there. So let's click on there, the preference. If you click there, this window will come up. So we need to click on Wi-Fi. Okay, so let me go to our inspector. So let's refresh again. Okay, so this is the Wi-Fi, right? So let's click on over here. So this is the locator, define locator. Okay, find by over here ID. You can use ID, you can use XPath, but this XPath is too long. I don't prefer to use that long XPath. Other than here is the ID, you can directly use ID. Okay, let's see what we used. This is the one we use. So this line, driver.find element by ID. Since we have an ID, we use the ID. Very straightforward, right? So this is the ID. You can see this is the ID, right? And then click up there. So we click there, right? We click there, and then so after that we click there. If you click there, it's supposed to enable, if you click there, it's supposed to show or display the Wi-Fi settings, right? Let me go back to there on inspect, and then refresh again. Then Wi-Fi settings supposed to display now. So we need to spy that Wi-Fi settings. Click on the Wi-Fi settings. So here is the locator for the Wi-Fi settings. You can see, so we have to click on Wi-Fi settings. So we need to locate, spy that element. So here is the locator. Here it's a little bit complicated. Looks like the XPath. Again, it's a long XPath, which is not recommended to use. Over here it's also, you can, if you read over here, it's saying using XPath locator is not recommended and can lead to fragile text asks your developer. So if you come across this kind of things, like you have a probably very limited or one locator, it's very long like this, and there is no other unique locator, that time you can talk to the developer. They can create a unique locator for you, like ID. Okay, you can use that kind of things. You can ask that, but still, like you have no other choice, and then you have to use find something by yourself, or you have to make some locator. At that time, let's see what else we have over here. We have source ID. I believe that you can use source ID as a locator. This is source ID also can be used as an ID too. So you can use this one, or you have you can use there's a class, so class name, which is the the valid locator. We can use class name over here. Okay, this is the class name. But before you use class, I think everybody knows, whoever comes from Selenium world, like class may have a chance to use multiple times. Class can be used duplicate, can be used for other element too. So here I can give you example. Let's see over here, the class has been, this is the XML code for this window. So here the class, let's see, so we see this class, where is the class? So this is the related, right? So class class name, where is the class name? Class, right? Android widget text view. So this is the one, right, which is reflecting over here. So if you noticed over here, let me see if this is the same thing it's been used before. So if I hover this one, let me see, come on, relative. So if I click on this, in this tag name, like this one, Android which gets relative layout, still it's highlighting this Wi-Fi settings, this element. So we can use this one. Okay, so if I want to use this one, but make sure that before we use this one, this is a unique or not. If I just go a little bit, Android which got relative layout, let's see, is that use? So you can see over here. So this is a, over here is the same thing. Here is a Android which get relative layout. You see this is the one. There's a multiple time it's been used. This one also. So this one, the same same attribute, the same tag name, it's used for Wi-Fi, and also the same attribute is using for the Wi-Fi settings. So it is, they are like a here, over here, this is like the parent, and this is like a child. This one is like a the first, this one is like a first child, and this one like a second child, right? So you have to be very careful when you're going to using any one of the tag name, like especially for a class, it may have use multiple times, right? So this is the one, relatives layout, it can be used multiple times, and we found that this is here is using the same one, here is using the same one. So but still we can use. How can we use? Let's see. Let me copy this. So let's go to here. We're going to write over here driver.find element by XPath. We're using XPath. In that case you can use XPath or you can make an XPath. It's because this is the same so this is the same it's a tag name, right? This is the tag name, just a tag name, right? If we just make sure that once again this is a tag name, right? So this is the tag name. So if you want to use class over here, relative layout, you can use class. So I can use make it even a XPath too. So to make a XPath is very simple. So we have seen the syntax of XPath, like / and then tag name @ attribute equals to value. So this is the syntax of XPath. And also if you say / and tag name, this is also a syntax of XPath. If you don't have any attribute or attribute and value, you have only the tag name. But as long as it's you can use you can identify that tag name as a uniquely. You can use that tag name to make your XPath. So we can do this one over here. We're saying driver.find element by XPath. This is the / and this is the tag name, right? This is the tag name over here. Now since we have seen this tag name is using multiple times, is using for two different elements. One is for Wi-Fi, another one is Wi-Fi settings. So which one we need? We need the second one. You can make it specific by a second, like this is a second child, right? So over here this is the first child, this is the first child, and also this is the second child. Underneath who? Underneath this, right? So this is the second, this is the first one, we need the second one. So we can use we can give the position, right? We can give the position, which one, which XPath or tag name that we're going to use, which you can place the position over here too. And then we have to click on do the click action, right? This is the one, that's the way you can use XPath. Okay, so after I click on there, so let's click on there, let's tab there, let's see if it works this time. If it doesn't work, and then we'll use. Okay, looks like Android, looks like let's go over here. That's why it's a little bit over here. Yeah, it works over here. So if you click on Wi-Fi settings, it's supposed to open this window, right? Let me go back to over here, then refresh it. So you already click on Wi-Fi settings. Now this pop-up window will come up, right? So in the pop-up window, what do you have to do? You have to type something over here. So type something. First you have to locate that element. So let's locate that element. Let's see, what do we have? We have ID XPath. Let's use the ID, very simple. This is the ID, and then let's go back to here. So this is the line where over here we're saying driver.find element by ID. Very simple. We have ID, very straightforward. Dot. Now since we're going to type something, right, we have to type over here something. We're going to type over here, to type on a field. In Selenium world or Appium is exactly the same method we're going to use, which is called send keys, right? Send keys, and pass your value as a string format, right? So that's the word we said, dot send keys, and then your pass whatever your Wi-Fi. Just this is a dummy Wi-Fi. I said no 123 number 1234 whatever. Okay, so then you already typed there, right? So after you type there, what's next? Next is like you're going to type there whatever, say no name, no 123456, right? And then you have to click on OK, right? So you have to spy this OK element too. So let's spy on OK element. How to spy on? Let's go and then click on OK. Here is the OK located over here. There is also ID we can find, so you can use ID. Okay, here is a class also, you can use class too. It's up to you, but again, be careful when you're going to use the class. Let's see what we did. We use class name. Okay, let's see the class name we use. So that's interesting, it's good to have it. Let's see, when you use the class name, you can use ID, there is no problem, but since we already use ID, we know that ID is always unique, there is no problem. Let's see that the problem one is called class name. Okay, and also as I said, if you remember, I said earlier, like if you have ID or source ID, both are same. If you see that the value of the ID and the source ID exactly the same. So if you don't have ID but you have a source ID, still you can use the source ID as an ID attribute. So use the value for ID. Okay, so that's the FOI. So let's see over here, we're going to use class. If you use class, let me just make it a little bit bigger so we can see. If you use class, so where is the class? Class XPath index class. Okay, so this is the class, right? So over here is a class. I see class is a Android, or is the value of class Android widget button, Android widget button, right? Android widget button. Let's see, where is the class Android? Where is the value? So just want to make sure that this is a unique. Okay, Android widget button. I think this is the one. Android widget button or source ID. Android widget button. Oh, here you can see this is the the tag name android.widget.button, right? So this is the one where it's reflecting your OK. But here is I can see there is an Android widget.button. There is another tag, exactly the same tag. If you select this one, you will see it's selecting the cancel button. So if I use the same tag name for my class as my class attribute android.widget.button, what will happen? The driver will start to scan from the top left hand corner. So and then it will find the cancel button one. It will have the match this tag name for the cancel, and it will assume that that's what you mean to find that cancel button, and it will click up there. But I don't in reality I want to use the same attribute for as a class name to click on the OK, right? So I don't want to click on cancel. So how I can use the same class name, same attribute for a class name for the second one? How can I do this? In this case, I can do this way. If you go over here, I said driver.find element, and here also one more thing. Here is a catch. Also one more thing. You can say by.class name. As we know, from the Selenium world, that we can use by for class name, but Appium, they're saying that it's better to use Appium by, and when you use also a class name, it will work for by. This is an optional, but it is recommended from the Appium. They're saying for the newer version of Appium, it may break your script if you use just by for class name. So it's better to use Appium by. Appium by for the class name also. As I said, Appium by must you have to use with the accessibility ID and also Android UI Automator. This is the must. But for class name, you can also use Appium by, which is the recommended. So Appium by class name, and this is the value of the class name. But this is the common class name for both. We have seen that's for the both cancel and OK button, right? But I want to use the second one. To do this, you can say get which one I'm going to use. Over here, interesting things. So if you select this one, this is the exact one I want to select, right? This one, what is the index number for this tag name, for this class name? Index number 1. If you select this one, which is reflecting the cancel, you can see this index number 0. And for this one is index number 1. So we can pass the index number for the common attribute, right? So here is over here. After I pass this one, the class name, and then this is the value of the class name dot, to pass the index number, we have to call the get method. So get method get, which is the used to pass the index number. So here is the index number, then dot click. Okay, so that's all you have to do. That's a way you can use the class name to make it unique, even though it's using multiple times or other elements, using their passing their index number from the their properties, and then do the click. Okay, so that's the way you're going to do it. You are going to use different locators, like whether it's ID, XPath, accessibility ID, class name. We haven't found any element which locator Android UI Automator. Definitely, we'll see that in our upcoming lecture, that how we can find that any element or any locator which is using Android UI Automator, so that we can use that one. But mostly all of them we have used, like rest of the 4 we have used, and you have seen that how to spy your different elements using, whether you are going to use Appium or Appium inspector or your emulator. If you get an error on Appium, definitely you are going to use your emulator, and then use the refresh button. It will refresh, it will take you to exactly the same page you are on your emulator. Okay, let's run this. Okay, just before we close this tutorial. Okay, let's run it. So to run it, just run your this class, right? So test ng. Okay, so let me show side by side. That's our app. guys, just telling you, for the Appium, the automation, the setting is the most difficult things, like setting your environment, setting your virtual emulator or simulator, and then build the base classes, all the information that you need, and to make it programmatically your server it's to run it. All those are the main the headache part. And after that, writing the actual test cases is not that difficult. It's exactly the same concept that you have learned in Selenium. Okay, you will see that we're going to use most of the time, most of the like same type of frameworks, right? And also all the TestNG frameworks, and also we'll bring up the page object model concept, everything's. You can see it, right? It's already launched the app. It's clicking the preference. Then it's supposed to click on preference dependency. Yes. Then it should check off the Wi-Fi, and then Wi-Fi settings. It's supposed to type up there as for our code over here we've seen, right? So it did everything, right? So it works, and you will see this is the result, right? So this is the result you can see. So one test pass and no failure, everything looks good. Here is the test class, and then you have it. This is your method, right? Test method. So guys, so that's the way you are going to use the Appium inspector as well as your emulator to find your different locator or elements using the locators like ID, XPath, accessibility ID, class name, or Android UI automator. Okay, so that's all for today. Stay tuned, watch the next tutorial. Have a good one. Bye bye.